Rocking and rolling, rocking and rolling. Can I get a mic check on you?
Check 1 2 1 2.
Beautiful. You sound good. If you can hear me.
Velvety vocal tones. I'm talking about you, of course.
No, that you sound great, but let's do this. Hello and welcome to Start the Beat with Sykes. My name is Sykes and this is my podcast. Before we get started, I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank everyone who checked out the last episode. If you're one of the people who listened to that conversation, I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks so much for coming back. But for those of you out there who are new to the show, welcome. Please feel free to make yourselves at home. And as always, there's beer and soda in the fridge. Today I'm running off of some lukewarm iced coffee. My friend is he's raw dogging it. Nothing. It's all good. It's a Sunday afternoon. And, you know, sometimes you just sometimes you don't need things. Less is more, as they say. Less is more. Before I introduce my guest here, I want to take a quick moment to tell you, if you're watching this and if you like the show, let people know. Tell a friend or two. Knock on your neighbor's door. Say, hey, there's this guy Sykes. He has a cool show. You should check it out. You know somebody that's in a band that maybe wants to be on the show, somebody that does art, yoga, who knows? If you do something cool, come on the show. Hit me up. Please share it. It helps. The internet is a fucking garbage pile, and I'm trying to do my best to make it a more positive place. So if you think it should be a better place, help your boy out. And with that being said, I'm sitting here today with a gentleman who is a new friend of mine. We have met recently on the internet. He is a very flexible fellow. He goes by the name Michael Miracles. And why don't you let the people know what it is that you do?
Okay, that's enough.
The internet's really happy that you're here.
They must be.
So, I mean, you're a little bit of you have a lot going on. Just like a half hour before you showed up, you're like, oh yeah, by the way, here's a link to my band. I had no idea you even had a band. So I got to like listen to like a little bit of that. And I'm like, okay, what the fuck is this like wild, like Faith No More sounding fun rock stuff? But before we get into all that, what do you do?
I do plenty. I was telling the Lyft driver on the way over that I'm a yoga master, but that sounds pretty arrogant. But it's
so you're a tutor, teacher of yoga.
Yeah, yoga teacher by day. I'm not sure what by night, but yeah. So I teach about 10 to 12 classes a week throughout the city. I don't want to go right into plugs because I feel like this could go I could plug all night.
Yeah, we don't have to like necessarily plug it, but you just let people know like, okay, so like you're not just somebody that like does yoga casually. This is something that is like a big part of your life.
I do yoga seriously. But no, seriously, nothing should be taken too seriously.
No, not at all.
Yeah, yoga's become a major part of my life. I'm in the process of turning it now into a career, but that's a different topic altogether. Basically, should I just go into the whole story of?
Yeah, that's why you're here. Let's talk, dude.
Yoga existed for thousands and thousands of years. One could say it all started 13.8 billion years ago. When that happened, when the universe popped a stiffy and exploded onto matter all over. And that's we'll start. How long do we have? 20 hours?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
No, I've just been teaching yoga since 2011 here in Pittsburgh. I did my first teacher training in New York and ran through my whole life savings while trying to further my music career in New York. I lived there for a year.
Okay, so pump the brakes. So you're in New York doing music.
Trying to. And
then you get into yoga while you are in New York.
I was already doing it, but since
taking it more seriously.
Yeah, I didn't have a real job there. I didn't have anything really pressing. I didn't have much happening with the music.
That sounds very New York.
Yeah, so I was like, I'll just do yoga every day. And here's a hint for anybody thinking about doing yoga more often. It's less so in Pittsburgh, but there's still a lot. If you want to get in on it and don't want to spend a lot of money, every studio has an intro. Maybe I shouldn't even be saying. Okay. Sorry, yoga studios I teach at, but every yoga studio has an intro special, basically. So you can kind of bounce around. And that's what I did in New York. There, infinite yoga studios there, just shy of infinite. But I went, to as many as I could and getting the free. And then I just landed on one spot. So it got to the point with my ex-partner and I, she was trying to do, further her career in poetry and performance arts, and she was doing a little better than I was, but not very well at all.
Sure.
And so I was like, all right, last $2,500 to my name. Guess I'm going to do a teacher training, because at that point in my life, I was just trying very, non-focusedly to make music my thing, and I could never make it happen. I could never really get out of the city, basically.
Sure. It's hard, dude. It's super fucking hard to like monetize your creativity. Like, like it's really hard in terms of just like, because there's 1,000 people trying to do it. Oh, more than 1,000.
I thought 999.
Yeah.
But,
but even aside from that, just like all of the personal stress and just like the toll it takes on your mind, which is what really interests me in the yoga aspect of what you do. Like in terms of like, okay, I'm doing this very stressful creative thing with music, but you also have the yoga, which I have understood is a much more like very like, okay, let's get in tune with my like self-awareness, become more just like relaxed and less focused, kind of like it's like more of a way to like maybe drop some of the ego that comes with the world of trying to like be a professional musician. And that's like a really interesting balance, those two things. There's like some serious yin and yang going on, I feel.
Well, it's more, you said less focus. It's less focus on stressful thoughts.
That's what I'm saying.
The mind can actually, when it's focused and when it gets something particular to do, you can relax more, because basically one of the major, if not the sole source of our stress is actually thoughts.
Yeah, totally.
And how we relate to them. Have you ever done yoga before?
I haven't. And I'll tell you this. I know I'm somebody that like, I work all the fucking time. I stress out so much. I'm always anxious, and I'm sore and grumpy. And I know in my brain, I've had this talk with people before, like yoga is probably something I should do. And I'm very yoga curious, but I just haven't done it yet. I don't know what it is. I think it's a matter of just like finding an environment that I'm comfortable in to do it is maybe a big part of it.
Right. Well, you mentioned the ego, and from my understanding through my studies of psychology and spirituality, and that's a lot, besides becoming a yoga teacher, I dove into those subjects more so throughout the last 8 years or so. But the term ego is used more broadly to describe essentially the part of her mind that's active, the part of her mind that's attached to her body, the part of her mind that's projecting into the future, digging up the past, and the part of her mind that is more valuable to be in touch with more often is the part of her mind that's always calm, part of her mind that makes clear, wise decisions as possible. And it's relatively more the part of her mind that observes things. So when you're clear of all your thoughts and you're just, I feel at peace, I'm feel at one with what I'm doing. That's, in a nutshell, what yoga helps us get more in touch with and to experience it more. But the ego is basically probably, I'm assuming, but it's probably your ego or the part of you that could benefit the most from yoga. That's coming up with reasons why not to do it.
Oh yeah. There's like the obvious kind of like the hurdles that I know it's going to be something that I'm not good at to begin with. And I'm not good at interacting with things that I'm not good at. Yeah. And that's 1000% like rock and roll fucking bullshit ego. Like I don't want to do something I'm not good at. I don't want to be in a room where other people see me doing something that I'm not good at. And I'm super aware of that, but I still have a hard time putting myself into that environment.
Well, what I'd say to that is the reason why people won't really be worrying about what you're doing is they're worrying about if other people are worrying about what they're doing, or they've been doing it for a while, and then ideally your eyes are.
I'm in such a better place now than I was maybe even a year ago with like having these like analyzing my own thoughts and like trying to figure out who I want to be moving forward as a person. And I mean, one of the reasons why I definitely wanted to have you on was because I know that you're super involved in all this yoga stuff and I'm really curious about it. But like also with a lot of the people that are in my social circle, I'm not around people that are doing this shit. I'm around a lot of people that are doing whatever's good for them. A lot of it isn't yoga. I'm not going to trash talk any of my friends, but it's just like meeting somebody like you and getting to have a conversation like this, I think is going to be really helpful for me personally, not to be like super selfish, but it is my fucking show. I'm really curious about this because I think that my brain, for some reason, I don't know how, it hasn't happened. It's been really like, it wasn't like an intentional thing, but just over the course of the past year or two, I'm starting to think more about things like this and like ways that I can like treat my body better and treat my mind better to like help actually benefit everything that I do. Because I think like doing something like practicing yoga on a regular basis would probably be an incredibly beneficial thing for me in terms of all of the creative stuff that I do, because it's going to give me more energy and like just, I don't know. I'm rambling. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely biased.
Well, I understand that.
Find myself being evangelical about this.
Okay,
as
so
well. But let me ask you this:
okay,
Have you ever tried just meditating before?
I wouldn't say seriously.
Mhm.
I have a lot of time where I intentionally like turn off all of my things and just kind of sit and get lost in my thoughts
Mhm.
and just try to like focus and relax. And I suppose that's meditating, but I never like do it in the sense of like, oh, I need to meditate right now. It's more just like I need to get away from everything and just chill the fuck out.
Yeah, that's a good start, and that's actually one of the main things that yoga can help us with, because these things, almost all of us nowadays, it's you don't need me to say this,
Yeah.
but that it's drawing us in, it's drawing our attention, it's drawing our energy, it's becoming compulsive, it's becoming, so just getting away from this thing. And when you go to a yoga class, most of the time the teacher won't let you bring it into the room with you.
Yeah.
So just getting away from that, turning off all media, turning off all outside sources of distraction is beneficial in and of itself. But what I'll say about yoga in terms of meditation, and I'll bounce back to this in a moment, but yoga is really designed as like a technology to help you meditate better. And there's been, I don't think too many people at this point in the game would try to dispute that meditation is beneficial for anyone.
Totally.
But the way yoga works is with the breathing techniques, with the poses themselves, the poses almost become metaphors or little scientific experiments to practice how your state of being can be under kind of a potentially stressful situation. But it's safe, it's confined. There's, I'm in this shape. I have these set of variables. So it becomes very scientific in that point. Now you have the two elements that allow you to meditate more effectively while you're doing the actual practice of yoga is, like I said, the breathing. And when you're really utilizing the power of your breath, like even if I could do it right now and I can feel a tangible sense of calm by just that one breath.
Well, that's the thing is like if I'm at a show or in a situation, like if things get really stressful, like I'll find a place where nobody's at and I'll like stop and like do like breathing exercises to like calm the fuck down and like just like take a second to stop and think about everything that's going on, really analyze how serious the situation is. Like we're at a rock and roll show. Do I need to be like thinking that like, I'm hanging on the last fibers of my existential being because like some fucking idiot is late to the show or so, you know what I mean? Like it's not that serious.
Yeah.
But when like I'm like promoting an event or something like that, it's really easy to get caught up in all of that. Like, oh, we're going to be 10 minutes off schedule. But like just trying to drop that shit and remember and like realize that it's not that fucking serious.
Well, nothing really is. Anything's only as serious as we allow the ego to make it.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, as I was saying, so you have a combination of the ability to pay attention to a specific way of breathing, and then whatever your body is feeling in the pose. So then again, it's not necessarily what your body's feeling. It's more like where, like, oh, I can feel that, and it's trying not to label it.
Okay.
So as you were saying, like what you do, seems like a great thing to do in general, but going a step beyond into meditation more so would be, okay, here are the thoughts. And then you're de-emphasizing them, it sounds like, which is very useful. But then it's just when you're actually meditating, whether it's in the middle of a yoga practice or whether you just sit and meditate, then you try to find one moment or a second or maybe a little bit longer, where all of your attention is on what you're doing in the present moment. And a breath always happens in the present moment. You can't breathe in the future. You can't go back and breathe that breath from last weekend, you know?
Uh-huh.
So that's one thing that's always happening in the present moment. And then we can start talking about, you can also start to get, a lot of yoga is called flow, but a lot of the yoga that calls itself that isn't really taking advantage of the power of what flow really is. And I don't know if you've heard about it or not, but most people have states of flow. There's different ways to get in a state of flow, and it's measurable, and there's scientists doing studies on it maybe at the moment, but
right this second.
at this, I wouldn't be surprised. All right. Yeah, states of flow are interesting, and many of us do experience it. One of the more common ways to get into a state of flow, and there's probably different levels to it as well, is just doing your favorite hobby. A lot of people reported gardening or knitting. I mean, those are my two things. I just basically garden and knit all day. That's a joke. I don't actually.
Oh, you don't knit?
No.
Okay.
I do like to form a tight knit community, but other than that.
Totally.
But,
do you garden?
No.
Oh, okay.
I sometimes eat vegetables though, so that helps, I guess. But anyway, where I do find flow is making a beat, or doing yoga for sure. Sometimes you can get into a state of flow in a conversation too, when you're not thinking about, I need to say this next, when you're just in that exchange, that give and take. Now there's also ways to like hijack the flow as well. Essentially, anytime that your ego faces an experience, faces a situation that it's never really doesn't have a frame of reference for, you can get into a deep state of flow really quickly. You kind of lose your awareness of your body. You lose awareness of time. And one of the fastest, and I'm not endorsing this stuff, I'm not saying it's bad either, but extreme sports. You jump off of a side of a bridge for the first time, and all of a sudden you're like, I don't know, I haven't actually done it, but from the reports, there's nothing to compare it to. So you just have this moment of, I'm outside of time.
That's kind of how I feel when I'm performing.
Yeah,
because I'm a very like physical performer, and whenever I'm playing a show, like it's like from the time that we start to the time that we stop, like we'll finish a set, and there's this moment where like I kick back into reality after the set's done. But I feel like in the middle of a set, like I'm completely gone. Like I'm there, but I'm not thinking about anything else. Like I'm just like I feel like a completely different person. And it's like I'm on a whole nother level. And I think that's why I love playing so much, is because that's the one thing that I have in my life that allows me to get to that like state of mind.
Yeah, that's where I accessed it first before I started doing yoga. It was during performances, and it seemed though that like I was like, I got like a glimpse of something. Like, again, I guess what I'm now about trying to describe is something that felt even more deep than like, I'm having, I'm performing, I'm in the moment. But, or maybe it was just that when I performed, mostly I wasn't in the moment. And then there was just a couple times I can remember to this day where it was like, everything slowed down. Felt like I was like super connected to the crowd. Yeah. And then it felt like joy, and which I never really had a frame of reference for. It felt like I was connected to, like, I'm going to use like pseudo spiritual terms now, but connected to totality, connected to all things in the universe, connected to, you could even say like something divine. And I was at that point, probably before I started doing yoga, I was more like an agnostic atheist. And slowly things started to shift, and now it got me into this place. Now I've had some experience. I don't want to tell my whole life story, but fast forward after some other things through yoga, I'll start here.
So we'll say, so like to kind of go back, we were in New York, you were doing music.
But even before that was my first teacher training.
Okay.
And I did get some experiences of same thing within some moments of that teacher training within some of the classes in it. But the first time where I had a major experience is in all places at a Bonnaroo in 2007. I had actually maybe had done yoga one time, and then I was briefly living in Hollywood at the time. I only lasted 9 weeks during that stint, but I had left Hollywood, went to Bonnaroo, and then at Bonnaroo, don't want to tell the whole story, but eventually I had ego death. I was seeing the Flaming Lips, and they came out in a spaceship, and then I kind of like I blacked out, and when I came to, I didn't really have any awareness of my identity for just briefly. And so I wouldn't really know the term ego death at that point. It's like later now I use those words to describe it. But when I came back into it, and I realized, my identity again, I just had this extreme feeling of, I love all human beings for the first time in my life. I never consciously felt that way. I never thought that way. I never felt that way. I was kind of leaning in towards it a little bit prior, but then it was like, this is what the truth is. I have only love is true, basically. And then I don't want again, the whole story, but it turned out like all the way throughout the night, I started just preaching this stuff, and all the way till about 5 a.m. And there was like a group of kids huddled around me, and I'm just ranting.
Yeah.
And till eventually one of my campmates was like, "All right, Sneaky." By the way, my previous FK, I was Sneaky Mike, and some of you might remember me as Sneaky Mike. But all right, Sneaky, shut the fuck up. And so that's where it didn't really end there either. But yeah, so that's when I was like, okay, that's the talk. Like that's where I know to be true. And then that began, now how do I walk the walk? How do I actually live lovingly, kindly in my life? And like I was all over the place. And then fast forward, I moved back. Then where I really got into yoga, this story is why I didn't last in Hollywood very long, was an ex of mine. She had just graduated CMU and got a job in Hollywood doing art design. And we bought a van on Craigslist for $500 completely illegally. Nothing was right on it. And there was even a ski mask in the back of it. Oh. So we packed up all of her stuff and most of my stuff and went to Hollywood. We didn't, I think we fought for like the only 2 times in a row. I mean, we were only like maybe together 6 months prior to that.
Sure.
But we fought the only 2 times. And then I came back to Pittsburgh. This is after the Bonnaroo, a couple weeks later. I came back to Pittsburgh to play a show that was previously scheduled. And then she was like, wouldn't answer my phone calls. But anyway, she just like abruptly broke up with me, and I was devastated. And I was like, for the first time in my life, I couldn't like TV, smoke, alcohol my way out of my thoughts.
Yeah.
I was just like, I was a wreck. I was like, probably I was crying in public. I'm thinking I like couldn't barely sleep, couldn't eat very much. And so I went back to, gather my things to get the affairs in order. And I tried yoga, I think, for the second time. And my first time I was trying to work out, and I was like, oh, this stuff isn't that good of a workout. It's for soccer moms. That was like basically where I was coming at it from. But then I did it the second time. And at the very end of the class, most classes end, you just lie on your back in a completely restful state. That was the first time since I got that news that the breakup happened, that I actually felt at peace for the first time. I was like, oh, there's something to this. So went back to Pittsburgh, and I got into hot yoga, and that was just like, oh my God, that was the most physical thing I would ever do. Like I would be laying in a giant puddle of sweat, like, flopping. You mentioned Faith No More earlier. I don't know if you had that iconic video at the end. Like I'd just be laying there like, I was like, okay, no, it's not just for soccer moms. That's the best work I ever got in my life. And so maybe I tend to go all over the place, but going back to that, why the physical practice is important is just on a biochemical level. You're getting rid of some of that energy. You're getting rid of some of that tightness. You're replacing stress hormones with calming, brain chemicals instead. And I believe I take it all the way back to when humans were evolving, when we were, I don't know, on the savannah or whatever. There was always clear and present danger. A lot of the time, there was either a tiger or a snake or a rival tribe, and it would just always almost had to be on alert to fight or to flee to keep alive.
Yeah.
And over time, I don't know if a lot of us realize, and a lot of us in America have it a lot better than in other countries, but and obviously other people, some people more so in America than others, but we don't really have too much danger in our lives very often. The seeming one, and where this part of our nervous system, the fight or flight's in control most of the time, driven by the ego, is when we're driving, because there's some tangible danger there,
Sure.
seemingly. But anyway, say you're in, let's use that as an example. Say you're in your car, someone cuts you off and gives you a middle finger. You feel that, and you got nowhere to go. You got nothing to expel that energy.
Yeah.
So you find another outlet, be it words, be it, or not really an outlet. So you just, or in even in a less real, less clear, less present danger is like, now it's to the point like someone, you read something on the news, you hear something on the news, you get that danger. Someone says something that you don't like, and it all accumulates. So we're always like, and then we have these things, and we're and so the body ends up going like this.
Feel like a big part of the reason why, like, it's an interesting conversation to have, and it's probably not one that we should dig into because it has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Well, but to kind of just to respond to your point there, I think that a big part of the reason why why our society is the way that it is now is like a side effect of how safe things are in general. I think in terms of like what we're like biologically and like mentally built for over like centuries, you know what I mean? Like now we don't experience a whole lot of danger in terms of like, there aren't like dinosaurs and shit like that. You know what I mean? There's definitely danger depending on, people that live in certain neighborhoods or have to deal with certain things. There's that sort of stuff. But on like the big scale, I feel like, we're in a very, very safe environment, but there's that part of us where we're still looking for danger. So our brains are still like, we're still able to like mentally and socially pick out things that like give us that, like we're always ready to react to something because we're safe. And it's like, you never feel comfortable. You always think like, oh, like things can't be good. There has to be something. I have to be on the look for something, and just like very tense. Things are just super tense right now.
Yeah, we're saying the same thing. I think that totally relates to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But is the answer to do more dangerous things? Not really, but to do maybe more challenging things. And then, like I was just saying earlier, trying to diagnose why you're not doing yoga yet, is that, your ego, which is in charge of you feeling like it needs to be in fight or flight. And it's two different types of our nervous system. The fight or flight's called sympathetic nervous system, and the calm, focused, relaxed part of our nervous system is called parasympathetic. But that part of our mind, the ego, is always trying to get you in the sympathetic nervous system to fight, to flee. But there's usually no actual fight. There's actually no actual running away of anything. So it just accumulates and keeps building and building and building.
So with everything that's going on now, I mean, we don't have to like go through every little nuance of what your past decade was like, because it seems like there was a whole lot.
Yeah.
But we could focus a little bit more on the present.
Yeah.
Because all of your journeys from, becoming a yoga teacher or master, whatever you want to call it, you started doing teaching in New York, right?
Well, yeah, I got my first teacher training there. Okay.
Yeah.
So that training didn't really teach me how to teach very well, but it gave me an experience of what it was. It showed me what it was. And I took that certificate and I was like, okay, now I need to I had to move back to Pittsburgh.
Okay.
What was your question? Sorry.
So, well, you're here now, and you mentioned earlier that, you're teaching a lot of classes a week, and you're also still, you're playing in a band. You're still doing music stuff.
Yeah, I came back to it. I had taken about 5 years off.
And I'm curious what coming back to music was like with all of this new perspective that you obtained just through the lifestyle that you had.
A lot more patient, a lot more doing it for the sake of doing it and not doing it for a reward.
Because I think that that's something that with all of the people that I talk to, whether it be on this show or just, out and about at events or through the internet, I think something that a lot of people don't have is patience
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to the music. And I think that it really like hinders a lot of people that I think have a lot of great potential. They're just so impatient and anxious and you're just like angry and just bitter. There's like all like the whole spectrum of negativity that comes with like being an artist. So many people that I know are just like
Yeah, man.
consumed by it.
I can relate. I used to go to shows and be like pissed. I was like, why is that person opening up for this band and not me?
Yeah.
Like that's what my attitude almost was all the time. Why them and not me? And like that was not a good way to go through the day, you know? But basically to answer your question, it's just, yeah, there's a lot more patience. I use the skills I've gained over the years through meditation and yoga. I haven't lost a step. I'm still keep every year. I don't know, I might finally have, and I don't know if I reached the pinnacle or not, but I just keep getting in better and better shape as I age.
Yeah.
Because of yoga. And so I haven't lost a step. But that was the thing. It was this perceived thing. Oh, for me to be okay, for me to be a success, for me to be happy, for me to be content, I got to get signed. I got to go on tour. I got to have this many people at my shows. And there's, not to lie, I mean, I'm more conscious to it now, but there's still an element of still wanting people to be at my shows.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's a healthy thing, obviously.
Now it's just more so doing it for the sake of doing it for the songs, doing it for the fun of it. And that's really how it's changed the most.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I took a lot of time off of it. It just got to the point where even while I was still on the yoga path at the same time, it got to the point where it was like, I just took that risk and played that show and there was 2 people watching me. Why the heck did I just do that? So I took time off and came back to it about 2 years ago. I've been recording an album with, you may have heard, remember the band Dazzle-Teen?
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 of the guys from Dazzle-Teen, Dan Koshoot and I are in Love Evolution now. And him and the bass player from Dazzle-Teen, Darren, have been, producing this new album now for about 2 years. We've been working on it.
Cool.
So it's really cool. We're going to probably drop the album hopefully by springtime. And we were trying to shoot a video and release. We have a song called Mr. Rogers. So we were trying to release that in the video by the time the Tom Hanks film drops, but I think we missed the opportunity to. I don't even know how the hashtag game really works all that much, but I was fantasizing about, the weekend before Mr. Rogers the movie drops, here's hashtag Mr. Rogers on. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be out by then, but we will. We'll officially start telling people more about the single on SoundCloud at that point. But the other way things changed is I forgot. I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. It's all good. So we were just briefly talking about social media, and we've talked a little bit about before, just basically, we didn't use this term, but it's a little bit of it could be a mental prison of sorts. But with playing in a band and promoting anything, maybe even with, the yoga stuff that you do, there's like a part of it where you want to use it because it helps get the word out. It's no different than this podcast. Without social media, this wouldn't exist. And, how do you find yourself interacting with social media in a healthy way? And do you still find yourself maybe sometimes slipping into like unhealthy behaviors with your phone, even like with all of like the awareness that you have of how dangerous it can be? Do you still find yourself falling into it?
I feel like an addict. Like I feel like the compulsion to check the phone all the time. Now I'm a little bit, maybe, who's to say, but maybe I'm say probably better with it than stopping myself to compulsively look at the phone, but I still do it. And it's like almost every time, like I'm picking up the phone for some reason, I end up clicking the Instagram icon. So I guess the answer to your question is I'm going to continue to use my skills at yoga to become less dependent on the social media. How I definitely am interacting with it more healthy than I probably would have before. I mean, there wasn't really would be the whole one-upsmanship on the whole arguing with people online type of thing.
Yeah, sure.
I know a lot of us don't do that, but I'm sure some of us do end up falling into that. And it's just to the point now where it's like, I do have that time. Like, even if someone says something or there's like some, some very provocative thing said, or I'm like, I'm going to say that. I'm like, no, why do I want to do that?
Uh-huh.
I don't want to be at odds with anybody. My real thing that I want to do is find commonalities with people and get along. So to answer your question, I think now from all this practice on the mat, I'm able to notice impulses when they arise and feel like, and really feel the space in between the stimulus of an impulse or whatever creates why I would do something. In this case, type a nasty message back on Facebook or something like that, in between the thought to do it and the action. So I can stop, I can reflect, I can breathe, and I think it's even more advantageous. It had been in my life, in my relationships, where yoga and spiritual studies and studies into psychology has helped me be able to never be in an argument. I came to the conclusion that I don't want to be in an argument. I like to be in healthy debates and conversations, but I don't want to be in an argument, especially with a loved one, So I find that in most, significant other relationships that are long-term, or even like your family members or coworkers, someone that you see regularly all the time, you fall into patterns. And so the pattern, and this relates to the same topic of social media. The pattern is, let's say my girlfriend says that thing, almost every single time I'm going to come back with a similar response, which is I'm going to come over the top and yell or something.
It becomes a competition. It's not a conversation anymore.
So all it takes to not have the argument is for one person to stop. Like, oh. And then what can happen is like, what? They didn't say that thing back. Let me go harder. But then it's just, it's not sticks and stones, It's just words. Mm-hmm. And so you can stop, you can breathe, and you can actually, I think there might be other people who have different opinions, but I think it's never advantageous to anybody to engage in an argument.
No, I agree with you 100%. I've had situations recently with people where, there is a disagreement that happens between me and somebody else. And obviously, like, people are impatient and you want to settle this argument right there in the moment, but you can't, because you need to take time to actually like internalize it, self-reflect, think about what you want to say, think about what you're actually feeling, and then respond. And, and I had somebody that was just like, we're in this moment, and they told me, I'm obviously upset and you're not saying anything. Why aren't you saying anything? And just making it about themselves. And I had to say, listen, you have to understand. I understand that you're upset, but put yourself to the side and understand that I'm upset too. And I need to figure out how I want to process this. I got to take it in my head. I got to think about what I actually want to say to you. And it takes more. I can't just like throw it out, like I can't just spit it out right away. I'm going to say something dumb that I haven't thought about. So it's like, I'm not ignoring you. I'm actually like taking the time to think about this and respond because I care about you. And I don't want this to be some like, just like knife fight.
Yeah. And that's a good point too, because not just saying nothing might still be like an aggressive act sometimes. Like,
but yeah, you have to like,
I'm not saying anything.
There's like a reason why I'm not saying anything.
So in that case, like what you were just describing, it might just be better to be like, hey, I care about you. I want to get the best resolution to this. And for that to happen, I just need a moment to calm down, take a breath. Maybe you can do, you know what I mean? So then you're coming out of this place of trying to find even ground with the person, trying to connect with them instead of defeat them.
Yeah, because I think that it's like, obviously if like you're in a situation where two people are upset, I think like taking the time to empathize with the person, even if you don't agree with them, but understand where they're coming from and analyze that and then put it against your viewpoint to figure out like, hey, Gabe, maybe you have to drop the ego. Maybe you are wrong in this situation and you need to take the time to analyze where that person's coming from. And then you understand, oh, I'm wrong. And then you can use your words to express to them like, hey, I'm sorry. Or on the flip, maybe you feel that you're right and you understand that you're right, but you take that extra second to really come up with your response to say like, hey, I took some time to think about this, and I understand that you feel that you're right because of A, B, and C, but this is how I feel, and just to like use your words wisely and, respectfully, and not be so like, fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, it's so easy to say that when really what you're trying to say is like, I love you and I'm angry and I'm upset and I don't know how to say it out loud, but it just comes out as fuck you, I hate you. And that's like the opposite thing that you want to say. But like your emotions get the best of you because like your brain just gets fucking cluttered with all of this noise. And if you don't have that ability to like wrangle that in and take the time to focus and think about it, it's just going to come out like, and that's how a lot of arguments happen.
It's also just, again, the ego is trying to make this very serious, and it's trying to make you're right. You have to be right about this. The ego is very serious about being right. And besides, being more in touch with your breath, being more in touch with your true feelings, just having, dropping that attachment to having to prove myself right in this situation can also go a long way to prevent arguments. And like, oh yeah, it's just normal to have arguments. I guess it is, but maybe there can be a new normal.
And that's like, whether that's like loved ones or people that you play in bands with or people that you work with, like there's so many different relationships that you have where I think that could be, you should utilize that always, whether it's like a good friend or even an acquaintance or, somebody, just always taking that time, I think, to empathize and really understand where people are coming from has like helped me a lot over the past couple of years, because before that I used to just have like a really shitty temper and like I was very unwilling to understand other people's perspective. And I feel like really shitty about that. But over time I've like, I don't know. I think I've just like my emotions have grown and I don't know why. It just has happened. I think I just stopped. I didn't want to be that person. I grew up around those people, not to get into like my family life and shit like that, but I grew up around a lot of that. And I think that's why I dealt with situations like that, was because that's how, I learned to deal with situations like that growing up. And it took a lot of time and like willpower and patience, I think, to understand how to like deal with things in a healthier way.
I wish, and maybe it's happening more and more, hopefully it is, but I wish that now what we're talking about is something that's taught to children more so. I wish there was like emotional wellness taught in schools.
Oh yeah.
And because, a lot of kids aren't getting any good.
I don't want to like throw anything super personal out, but like somebody that I know has some nephews in their family, and one of the kids is like going through like all of this like really crazy temper stuff right now. And all they're doing is just like throwing him on different medicines, and it's making it worse. I know for a fact that it's just making it worse. I feel like, conspiracy theories aside, I feel like a lot of pharmaceutical companies are just using kids as guinea pigs to test out these fucking drugs. It's like, okay, whatever. It's a kid in a low income neighborhood. Their value doesn't mean shit to us. We'll just test them out on this, whatever. If they fucking freak out, they can't figure out their shit, it doesn't matter.
It's still making the corporations money.
And I just feel like so fucking bad for this kid, because like I've been around the kid. He's a good kid. There's nothing wrong with him, but like he'll be in school, and he's dealing with other kids that aren't getting treated right. So like they have their own shitty things. They're picking on people. They have their own problems, and it's just like a bad mixture of stuff together. And like the response to everything is just throw them all in medicine, and it's frightening. There's no actual like talk about like empathy or understanding or teaching kids about these things.
I wish to affect the culture in large, or which, I can't do it alone, obviously, but I wish to all of us, whoever feels the same way that what we're talking about starts to affect culture more so, to make it actually be, the kid that actually is really nice to people, the kid that steps in and prevents a bullying. That's the cool kid. The person who's nice to everyone, that's the cool kid. Whereas my experience in school, it was almost the opposite. It was just like the shitty kids that were, most popular.
Sure.
So bringing through, and all the way up, not just the kids in school, but all the way up to who are the people that we honor and worship in society usually aren't those people. It's usually, I don't want to get into politics, but look at the politicians, And whatever, there's some good and there's bad with the athletes and the
Sure.
celebrities of other
Sure.
of other, there's good and they're bad at them, but like, and let's make what's it cool to do? Let's make it cool to be very kind and understanding to each other. And that sounds, that sounds boring, but like I said, that's why I wrote the song Mr. Rogers, because that's the answer to the thing I lost my train of thought was when you asked how has the yoga and my I'm going to just call it spiritual path, how has that affected my music? Now it's affected the lyrical content. Now I'm trying to actually write songs that are still interesting, that aren't preachy, that do actually get across these concepts in an interesting manner with still music that's cool. I feel like in the past I'm a little bit I have kind of bad associations with positive music being corny.
Sure.
And maybe it is a little bit, but even like,
I think people have associations with positive anything being corny. And I think that's why a lot of people have a hard time thinking that, the bullies aren't the cool kids, or thinking that like yoga is this thing for soccer moms, or, like there's all this that I don't know what it is, but there is definitely this thing in society where it is like not cool to take care of yourself, essentially. And I don't know what that is.
It's probably a whole combination of factors, but again, without going down, I try not to think about this stuff very much, but without going down conspiracy theory roads, it's advantageous to the people at the top to keep everybody else down. And how do you keep people down? You keep them at odds with each other. You keep them in a stressful mindset.
Yeah, totally.
And and then it's a little easier to get shitty things past us all. Yeah. What are we going to do? Well, I got to the point that was stressful. I was like, the world got to be a better place. How do I do it? I don't know. Really, for me, it just turned out to be, I need to make sure I think it's Gandhi, the Gandhi quote, be the change you want to see in the world. Yeah, a lot of people are like, I'll Instagram that. But my question was, how the fuck do you be how do you do it?
I think the thing that Instagram or just social media in general fucked up is that it gave everybody this ability to think that they're more important, that they're touching more of the world than like they realistically are. You know what I mean? Like, how many personal relationships do you think you could handle realistically? And like, but you're online and it's like everybody has like thousands of friends and thousands of followers. And it's like, in theory, that seems like a cute idea, but it's not realistic. So for me, it's like, okay, the internet's going to be whatever it is. But what I need to focus on in my life is just my immediate circle. The way that I make the world better is just focusing on my bubble, my family, my friends, and just, show as much positivity and love to those people as I can. And hopefully it will spread out from there. Yeah. Because that's all you can do. Is the best I think that I can hope for. I can't speak for everybody else, but the best that I can hope for is just creating a domino effect. And there's only so much I have control of, because I can only realistically touch the lives of so many people, because I'm just one person.
And I totally agree. And I would just take it one step further. It starts from within. Really, you don't even have. Those are the first responders to what's going on from within, the people that are closest to you in your bubble.
Yeah, but
it starts from within.
Sure, like you have to love yourself before you can love somebody else. That kind of thing.
Well, sometimes you can find that on the outside and simultaneously.
You learn to love yourself by the love that other people show you. Things like that.
Well, from my experience, the more I love other people, the more I love myself. The more I love myself, the more I love other people. But starting from the inside, and the only thing you mentioned the word control, the only thing we have control, we don't have any control. We might be able to influence the percentage chances of things happening somewhat, but the only thing we ultimately have control of is how we respond to things. That's the only thing we have control of. And then a lot of the times we seem out of control. We seem like we don't have control over it. There are a lot of people, especially in stressful moments, it doesn't seem like there's any space to make a conscious decision.
Yeah, we were talking about that. Yeah.
So that's the only thing we have control of, and that's the combination of both of our answers. That's how you make the world a better place. I don't know. I'm all for everyone who's activists and going out and hitting the streets, and especially people who go out and do missionary work and volunteer work. And I hope to do some more stuff like that in the future. But the only thing that, in my day-to-day life that I know that I can become better at and to make an impact, like those who are closest with me. And then as a yoga teacher now, I'm able to, it grows a little bit more exponentially that way. And so I'm teaching yoga now that I feel has been so precisely designed to get into all the things we're talking about. Whereas this is another topic, I don't know if I should go into it, but a lot of the yoga out there isn't taking full advantage of the possibilities of what yoga can do for people.
Sure. I think that is something that, I mean, we kind of joked a little bit about like yoga and the soccer mom thing and stuff that, which I mean, like, hey, if you're a soccer mom and you want to do, very, I would call maybe like, I would imagine it's very like surface level basic yoga.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like the equivalent of like, food court Chinese food.
Exactly.
There's like a baseline of Asian food, but there's a much deeper palette or deeper variety of things out there. So I imagine yoga is definitely the same way. It's like, most things are like that, you know, like movies, music, anything.
I'd rather people be doing, as you described, food court yoga, than not doing anything at all. So the first step is, even in those very superficial classes that aren't really prioritizing meditation and breathing, they're still moving. So that's a step in the right direction. Getting people just active who wouldn't be active otherwise. It's a great step.
Yeah, so I think I feel like there's a lot of people that when they're thinking about yoga, maybe some people are turned off by the spirituality stuff. They're just looking for an alternative way to work out. And then there's probably also people too that like with me, like I have no interest in working out, but I'm really interested in the spirituality stuff and like the mental stuff. So that's what's drawing me to yoga, not so much the physical stuff, but like the mental and like personal gain from that is what is attracting me. Like I have no interest in like just like, oh, this is like I get to wear, a cute outfit and, do that sort of stuff and go hang out with my friends at the yoga thing.
For anyone out there, the only way that you can do yoga is if you have to go to Lululemon. You have to spend $20, $200 on your yoga pants.
Yeah,
I could see you in a pair of yoga pants right now. That would be great. No, that's a joke, everybody.
Yeah.
You come as you are. Just put a pair of shorts on and t-shirt and go for it. You don't need. But
like I'm super interested in that, and I think just like. I think another thing too is just like honestly like knowing where to go to find what you're looking for. I mean, you had kind of mentioned that like when you were in New York, like there was so many different places to go, and I know damn well there's a ton of places to go here too. But it's like, where do you go? So I think it's just a matter of like being able to know what you're looking for and where to find it. And for somebody like me, like I don't know. I think I understand what I'm looking for, but I don't know where to find it. But it seems like you may be in touch with what I'm interested in. So maybe this would be a good opportunity to let people know, and me included, let me know, where do you teach yoga at? Like, where could people find you if they were interested in this?
Yeah, the fastest way to find one of my classes is to go to my website, michaelmiracles.com. My schedule is usually completely up to date. So you could start there. Some of the studios I teach at are the Yoga Hive in Garfield, I Am Yoga in Squirrel Hill, and not as much, but sometimes, and I like to practice there a lot, Yoga Factory in Lawrenceville. Those are all fine studios. I also teach, there's another big thing. I've now my second year leading a teacher training. So I've been teaching people how to teach yoga now, and that's great. So I operate out of my space called Metta, METTA. And we got donation-based classes there happening occasionally, and then maybe more so in the future. But a bunch of different places. I also teach at an art gallery in Garfield. Just other places to access it. So check out michaelmiracles.com if you want to check out one of my classes. If anything I'm saying or about to say resonates with you, check it out. I'd love to share what really has helped me, and hopefully you too. I'll get you to a class. I'll hold you to it.
I'm super fucking interested. I just need to drop the last little bit of my weird ego.
You don't even need to drop it. Like sometimes you just have to like get that extra oomph get your shoes on and get
I
out
think
the door.
another thing too is just like, I'm always prioritizing so much in my life. I have a very like intense but dedicated schedule where, you know what I mean? Like I have my 9 to 5 and I got stuff like this. I play in different bands. I have a relationship and a house and, you know, like all these things that you have to take care of. And it's so hard for me to just like, you know, be like, oh, well, you know, I don't have time to do yoga. But then also I'll be like 5 episodes into some bullshit show on Netflix and I'll think like, oh, fuck, like what could I have done with this time? Like there's always time. That's, and I think that I just need to stop making excuses. And honestly, just even talking with you, and I feel like so much more comfortable even like looking into what you're doing just because I feel like I trust you. And it's so crucial, I think, for me to have that trust in like working with somebody on something like this that I feel is like going to be a big, like be like a huge changing part of my life versus just like going into some place with like a stranger that like I don't understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell, but well, thank you, firstly.
I mean,
but it's hard to tell. I mean, I've put in work. Well, the reason I started out saying I was a yoga master is because I don't know if you heard the rule of like 10,000 hours. If you dedicate 10,000 hours to something, you at least have a high potential of achieving mastery. And the definition of mastery is having, my definition, or the definition I employ, is having a lot of skill at what you're doing, but at the same time having an open mind about it as well. A lot of us get trapped into thinking we're experts about things, even if we've only been doing something for a short amount of time. And then again, it's the ego jumps in like, oh, you have to be right. You have to be the best. This has to be right about that.
Yeah.
A lot of experts in any field, they tend to stop learning because the only thing that an expert can see is things that reinforce what they're already doing. Everything else is blocked out. So it's nice to be in a beginner mindset, even if you've been practicing for a long time. But I was just saying, like, even like, you know, you get a yoga teacher who just went through, you know, maybe a less effective training and who's just there. Hey, you get there, you move. Maybe that they've played a Justin Bieber song and a Drake song during the yoga practice doesn't really appeal to you, as it. I'm maybe just speaking from my own experience, but nothing against those guys.
Yeah.
But I don't want it in my yoga, you know.
Sure.
So, you know, you might hit a class that doesn't resonate with you. That's okay. There's so many other ones to try. And then eventually, I think the reason why, you know, that's important. If there's anybody out there who's a yoga teacher or thinking about becoming a yoga teacher, really study what you're doing. And the students, at least in the context of a class, you can kind of feel like the confidence level, like confidence without false bravado. You know, I'm confident that I know how to guide you through a yoga class. That makes it, you know, that makes it a little bit easier for that part of your mind to disengage and not be on, you know, protect mode. Like, oh, this person doesn't know what they missed a, you know what I mean? So that makes it a little bit easier to get into the experience when the teacher at least seems trustworthy.
Sure.
But not to say like trustworthy as in regards to how they're leading the class. You know, I'm in a frame of mind that some people might call naive, but I'm always trying to see the best in every person. So I'm entering any situation very optimistically, and I don't need it to go any other way. So I'm looking to bring out. I'm seeing. This is what namaste means. To me, it's an act of practice. I'm always trying to actually see the best in every single person, and it's not anything that I have to judge because I know it's there. And whether it's, and basically the words I use to describe what that it is that we all have is, you can just call it loving kindness or you can call it compassion. But we all have that. A lot of people don't have access it very much. A lot of people don't show it very much. So, but that's where I'm trying to connect to people with on a level more than, you know, just verbal communication more, you know. So when I'm connecting to people like that more often, you start to feel it if you take my class. You start to, and then that's the other thing about, I'm really specific about how I teach the yoga too. I teach both vinyasa yoga, which essentially has come to mean like flow. That's my main thing that I teach, but I also teach the Bikram style of yoga, the hot yoga as well. But in the vinyasa yoga,
The sweaty stuff.
yeah, sweaty stuff. We can talk about that. Why heat has its advantages as well. But even I don't teach all hot yoga. My vinyasa classes, a lot of them aren't heated. The key to really getting that is really learning how to teach the class to link the breathing with what they're doing. And many people, this if you haven't taken a class before, those who have though. Is every breath landing in your pose? Is every breath landing on how you get from one pose to the other? And it sounds very like, oh, of course, but if you really focus in on that, and a lot of the classes out there really don't. They get caught up in what their playlist is like. They get caught up in trying to do a fancy sequence.
I feel like that seems so much linked to like performing again to me, because I feel like there's so much of that I think about in terms of performances. As much as like as I lose myself. There's always like whenever I'm writing songs, I'm thinking about going from part to part and my breath control and what I'm doing vocally from part to part and how it's going to work. And can I actually do this, in a sense that's going to make sense that, I can comfortably do it and execute it so it lands in the way that it's supposed to. And a big part of that is like with like just breath control and focusing on like my movements and things that I'm doing while performing.
Yeah, I think it doesn't sound like doing yoga will really help you with that.
Yeah.
Have you ever had this happen? I think I know it's happening, but when I have to scream something very loudly, do you ever get the hiccups that's happened to me several times. I think I'm getting air trapped in my stomach.
Yeah.
But I just
Maybe.
wanted to ask you that because
yeah, that hasn't happened to me.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing too is with like, so like I play in two different bands primarily, and one is like always screaming and one is never screaming. I'm never jumping between the two realms. So if you're in a position where like, you're having stuff where like sometimes you're screaming and sometimes you're doing more singing, I could see maybe something like that happening because like you're using so much more in like a confined space of time where like you're like doing different things with like your body to like do those different sounds, I guess,
Again, mostly the breath, really.
Yeah.
That's just one thing though, but in general, all the breathing techniques strengthens your diaphragm. It strengthens all the muscles around your lungs, so you get more oomph. I mean,
that stuff is it's so important when it comes to performing, like, and like to be able to like focus on that stuff in the middle of a performance while you're still moving around, having a good time and performing stuff accurately. It's a lot to think about, but like once you lock it in, it's fucking great. I love it.
Yeah, there's various levels of how we do things with and how our thoughts connect to it. And it's interesting. Eventually, with so much muscle memory, with so much repetition, we end up getting in that zone where we don't really have to think about it. But ideally you can. You don't want to go into complete autopilot.
Yeah.
But it's like combining your ability to do things without having to critically analyze them a lot first, or to think about just like how we walk. We don't have to think, okay, now I have to lift up my right foot and put it down. We start to be able to do more and more things with that amount of ease, but also, again, using the example of how we walk, most of us will walk and we'll be thinking about, oh, that's say that. So we don't actually walk as well. But yeah, it's just applying the best of, again, it's not even thinking about what you're doing. It's just more being completely there for what you're doing. You don't really even have, usually, then depending on what the task is, ideally, then we get more of control of that part of our mind that generates the thoughts. It becomes more of a tool where like, oh, I need to analyze these factors and make a decision. Yeah, now I'll use that instead of what happens a lot of the time. That part of our mind's in charge, using us, draining us, and it's just like generating repetitive or random thoughts or fluctuating between both. And it's more and more, we're not really into what we're doing. And a lot of the times, like, then we introduce these things again and more dissidence, more distraction from what we're doing. And I really feel that yoga is a way to counteract the anxiety, all of the things that cause anxiety in our world. And I can only imagine what it's like to be having been raised with these things.
Oh, yeah.
From a little
Yeah.
kid. I'm glad I got
think
some
that
time.
I
before that
honestly
happened.
think that the people that have like, I think that there's gonna be a separation. I think kids that are growing up with this stuff are gonna be a lot better than our generation and the couple that kind of followed us.
Mhm.
So I think it's gonna become a thing where once it's normalized to a point that it's just like, oh, whatever, it's not that big of a deal. It's gonna be harder for people to get addicted to it because it's not really a new thing. It's just a
Mhm.
normal thing. And it's gonna be kind of like, oh, like whatever, like Instagram's fucking corny. Like the real world's where it's at. It's gonna
I
be
hope
like
so.
it's gonna be like that rotation of like how like music will always like go into that thing. Like you had a
Cyclical.
like hair metal was like the pinnacle of like over the top extremeness, and then all of a sudden, the Seattle scene came in, kicked the door down, like back to basics, motherfuckers. I feel like that sort of thing is just gonna happen, where eventually it's gonna reset. But there's gonna be a whole lot of people out there that are still all fucked up, and they're gonna have like the kids that are gonna be like, oh, fuck this shit. They're gonna have parents that are all about it, and they're gonna be raised all weird. That's gonna take some time to get through it. It's like there's like this weird thing now where like like there's like some people that I know that have kids and it's awesome and they're great parents and that's super tight. But they post things online that are like, it's like super subjective stuff. Like, I don't know if you should be posting that when it's like, a photo of you with your kids and then a photo of this thing. It's like, this is weird. Like, should all of this be in the same pot? I'm not trying to say that like you don't have a healthy lifestyle, but it just comes off weird to me.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, it's none of my business, but I don't know if you're putting it out there, it just seems weird. Cause like one day, like your kids are going to see that, they're going to be able to look back at all of that stuff. And like, I don't know, it's a strange thing. It's a strange world that like young kids are being raised in right now. But like, I'm not smart enough to even understand the psychology of that. I'm trying to figure out myself. I can't fucking figure out kids.
Yeah, there's 3 types of business. There's other people's business, there's your business, and there's the universe's business. And
Yeah.
whenever you're caught up in other people's business or the universe's business, you actually have no control over it. So you're in a place of stress. You're in a place of anxiety. So handle your own business.
Yeah.
And,
Again, it goes back to what we said before. Nothing's really that serious.
Right.
Is it that fucking serious that, somebody posts a picture of themselves, like, passed out drunk, and then they post a picture of them hanging out with their kids?
Well,
maybe not that big of a deal.
Next day.
Yeah. I don't know. It's probably not that big of a deal. The kid looks happy and healthy. Whatever. It's not my business. But, it's maybe just not the best look publicly, like if, God forbid anything were to ever happen and somebody had to look into the well-being of that kid and they looked at your Instagram account, that might not be the best thing in your favor.
Yeah.
But whatever, we're talking about very extreme things.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that I do want to maybe sort of wrap up our discussion on, talking about being drunk and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you had mentioned earlier in the conversation how like you were kind of losing your thoughts in like, like alcohol. I don't remember if you said drugs, but like sort of like that sort of thing, kind of like giving into that sort of stuff prior to like getting really deep into the yoga stuff. I'm curious now, like what your relationship with those sorts of things are, whether it be like, just recreational eating of garbage food, like having pizza every once in a while, or like drinking or drugs or anything like that. Like, what is your relationship like with those things now?
I just believe I don't want to be like, oh, if you're not eating healthy, you're doing something wrong, or if you're drinking, you're doing something wrong. I feel like everything in moderation, really. You know? Back in the day, I used to be more of a partier. Like when I said the content of the music has changed, the whole Sneaky Mike persona was more like party animal. Whatever it was, and that. It was art reflecting life reflecting art. So I used to party more. I used to drink more. I used to binge drink. And I would also use, alcohol and whatever else for basically how I can see it now is a way to get a break from the thoughts in my head.
Sure.
And, that never really comes out to anything substantial. So that said, like nowadays, I'll have a few drinks with dinner or something like that. It's no big deal. Maybe I do it too often, but there's no foreseeable, there's no noticeable ramifications of it, and I feel the best I've ever did, and I'm mentally feeling the best I've ever did in life. So
Sure.
I'm not here to tell people not to drink or not to do drugs or to stop eating fast food, but it's up to you, and you just really assess it honestly.
Yeah, I think it's a matter
fast
of
food
like
isn't good for you.
like what's right for you, and like what everything is a result of. You know what I mean? Like, for example, say the main reason you're eating a lot of fast food is because you're going out and drinking until 2 a.m. multiple times a week, and then you get all hungry and you want to eat something before you go to bed. So as a result of you drinking until 2 a.m, you're going to Wendy's drive-through, and you're putting all that garbage into your body on top of the alcohol, and then it's making you have a hard time get up for work, and then like you have to go to work and it's sluggish, and then like it's like creating like this big thing. I feel like if you're in a cycle like that where like one problem's creating another problem, then you should overlook. I don't think that's something you should overlook. I think you should really analyze on like what is going on. Like, oh, why do you feel like shit today? Oh, because you ate all this garbage food last night. Why did you eat that garbage food? Because you were drinking. Why did you feel like you had to go drink? Oh, because some reason. So
I was bored.
Analyze all of those things. Yeah, it's like, okay, well, why are you bored? Maybe you need something in your life. Maybe you need yoga. I don't know. But it's like,
well, for me personally, yoga really broke that cycle. If I wasn't necessarily fitting it to the T. Well, maybe I was. But now it's like, oh, do I want to go out, stay out later and have more drinks, or do I want to be able to get up and do yoga the next day? I want to get up and do yoga the next day because it makes me feel better. And as you were saying, for you, you're more interested maybe in the meditative and the spiritual side of things, but there's a payoff right off the bat. Even though it might feel challenging during the practice, you feel better physically almost always after.
I mean, I don't think I had mentioned this, but I mean, like, I'm in a thing now where like I do stretches every day when I wake up now. That's something that's more recent in my life. It's nothing crazy or it's just like whatever, just stretch it out. And like, I know, and like sometimes I'll stretch in the middle of the day at work, and like, I know that it feels better. So it's like, I'm starting to think about like, oh, like if I was actually doing like a proper stretch and maybe applying some more of this like mental stuff that I'm thinking about in times when I'm stressed out, like this can only be good. There's no negativity that could possibly come from putting these worlds together and setting time aside in my hectic life to like focus on these things. I can't see any negativity from it. It's just a matter of me just doing it, just getting off my ass and fucking doing it.
Yeah, it just starts with one class.
Yeah.
Tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. at the Irma Freeman Center on Penn Avenue in Garfield. That would be a good one. It's an admission class for $5 or more.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It might not work for everybody, but it really has worked for me, and it works for my student. I see it work for a lot of people.
I think I say this a lot, and I apologize to people that watch the show frequently. But a lot of times people ask me about starting a podcast or, recording music or playing shows. Like how do you do something? And the first thing I always tell everybody is if you want to do something, the main thing that you need is a genuine want to fucking do it. If you don't have that actual drive to do it, you can buy all the fucking equipment in the world. You could do whatever you want, but without that passion, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the thing with me in the yoga right now is just like, I feel like I'm so close. I mean, I honestly feel like I'm there at this point after talking to you, but it's just like that passion just wasn't there. It's like, I understand the functionality of it and all the positive benefits, but it's just like the energy wasn't there. I didn't have like enough passion to be like, okay, well, I'm going to set aside fucking, band practice this week, or I'm going to set aside podcasts or, this and that. Like I'm going to have to make a sacrifice to make time for it, but it never felt like it was worth it. But now I'm starting to feel like it can be worth it. I just got to like look at the schedules and figure out what's going to work for me and just fucking do it.
Yeah.
Because like, I really want to do it. I feel like it's just going to be a lot better for me.
Another really cool opportunity for you or anyone else watching out there to do a special yoga class would be Sunday at noon, 2 weeks from today at Spirit under the Ian Brill's vault display. We're going to be doing a class there at noon on the 24th. So that could be another opportunity. I don't know. It's kind of gimmicky, but it'd be a cool environment to do it. So I'm doing the class there, and I would feel like it would be a wasted opportunity if I didn't tell your viewers that as well. But I'd say start tomorrow, honestly. Yeah, I got classes there. So I got 2 classes on the schedule for the public tomorrow. But if it's not my class and you're on the brink as well of trying yoga for the first time, just get to any class. Oftentimes it's whatever's closest to you it will be the best one, because once you get there, it's not as, depending on, it can be still pretty challenging, but the hardest part is really getting there.
I think that, I mean, that's 100% just, I agree with you. Getting there. Yeah. That has to be the hardest part.
Getting stopping inertia, getting the object in motion,
Yeah.
Because it's, once you do that, it can, it can remain in motion.
1000%. Before we wrap up, do you want to remind people one more time about your website and let people know about the band too? Do you have any gigs or anything coming up?
Yeah, we don't have anything scheduled. We just played Spirit's Halloween party show.
Cool.
And looking for a new gig. I'm a little bit selective of what I take nowadays. I'm just not.
There's no point to play every other weekend.
Yeah,
there really
I'd
isn't.
like to. It's fun, but
it is.
When
but
I'm
like,
playing to just a handful of people, it's a little bit.
It stops being special real quick when you do that, especially if you're staying like local. It sucks because, I mean, coming from somebody that's in a band, it's like, I love playing. I want to play every fucking night.
Mm-hmm.
But realistically, if I'm not able to go out of town, playing locally all the time, it doesn't do anything but hurt you. It really doesn't.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So for the band, you can check out our new tunes. They're not really officially released yet, but check out our SoundCloud / Michael Miracles. I think that'll guide you to it. But beyond that, no gigs coming up soon, but we'll probably be doing one in combination with releasing a single or the album soon. Beyond that, check out yoga classes. And if you're in the market for doing a teacher training, I'm in full swing of this year's, but we'll be doing another one in the summer. So that's Unity Vinyasa teacher training. If you've already even have done a teacher training, we're doing a 500-hour certification as well. So it's good for those just getting started or those who've taken a training and want to go deeper and become more skilled, because a lot of trainings don't set you up to teach successfully. They really don't. Unfortunately, not to say, here I go contrasting again, but I don't know. Check out one of my classes and see if it resonates with you. I feel like there's a million other things I should be plugging, but the vault class at Spirit noon on Sunday, November 24th. That's a big one. And we'll just, the teacher training is always, that's, if it's so cool to be able to teach yoga to other people, but it's just like an other element of, I love it so much to be able to teach other people how to possibly influence other people. So that's the way to start making that's one way to start making the world a better place. Another one's podcasts too. You start to reach more people that way.
Yeah, I'm trying. This is my little.
What episode is this?
This is episode 269.
All right, that's not bad.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm in it at this point. It's cool. I think a big part of me learning about myself was this podcast and like actually talking with so many different people.
Yeah.
Learning that, my stresses about all the things that I do aren't unique. Mm-hmm. Everybody has the same issues.
Yep.
And also realizing that I'm able to talk with people in a way that's like a lot more articulate. And I feel like I help a lot of people, whether if that's people that have been on the show or people that watch the show. And it's made me feel a lot better about what I do. And that's why I keep doing it, is because it's just like, it's a way for me to be able to give back to the community that, I care about. I love being a part of this thing. And, it's one thing to be able to like go to my friends' shows and, buy their t-shirts and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But I want to actually be able to like do a little bit more. And I have all of this stuff and the ability to do it. And not a lot of people have the ability to do this. So I think it's, kind of my calling in some sense to do this. So I'm doing it.
That's good to hear. One thing before I want to put this out to anyone, but also to you, I'm actually looking to hire somebody to help promote the music more so. I don't know if you know anybody off the top of your head, but I'm looking to pay a fair living wage for part-time work to just get, because I don't have high expectations of getting signed or whatever, but I feel like we've been working so much on this music, and it's music that can potentially uplift people. Besides it just hopefully sounding good. I would love to. I don't know how to go about to hire. I don't know how to hire that right person who is a social media savvy person and can do all the setting up stuff that I don't really have a lot of time to do.
That's a whole nother conversation.
I'm willing to spend my lunch money on it for sure.
Yeah,
I don't want to buy a new car. I just want to get my music out there. So if anybody out there listening, watching is a fairly organized person and has interest in the music industry, let's work together. I'm willing to. That's the other thing I wanted to plug because
cool.
I don't know how to find put it on Craigslist. That seems like a black hole. I don't know. It's just like wading through rando requests.
It's hard. Much like I would say maybe the anxieties of finding like a yoga instructor that resonates with you when it comes to finding somebody to help you promote your music, whether it be like, somebody that you hire to do marketing or a manager, things like that. It's finding somebody that actually has an interest in what you're doing, or if they're just going to, take money from you and they'll promote it through their social channels, but that doesn't mean it's actually going to resonate with anybody. Right. You know what I mean? They might be able to fucking put your music on a blog that's going to get, 1,000 hits. But if you're doing, rock music and their connections just kind of like a very just like average sort of just blog that talks about everything and it's not a big rock crowd, sure, it might get a couple thousand hits on the page, but that doesn't mean that any of those people are going to care about what you're doing because the manager isn't taking time to actually like put your stuff in front of people like focused. They're not targeting. And that's the thing that I've come into a lot of problem with is just finding people that are like, oh, like I can help promote heavy metal music. And they just put stuff in like, very just generic metal things along with, the other 200 posts from the same day. And it's not actually like focused or targeted or, but they're still taking your money. And it's like, well, hey, I told you that I would get your stuff in front of thousands of people. So technically you're getting what you paid for, but there's that nuance of like, getting it in front of people that are actually interacting with it and people that are actually it's gonna benefit you. So it's really easy to like waste a lot of money, unfortunately, doing that. So it's a matter of just like talking with people face to face and finding somebody that actually has a passion for your vision and wants to see it grow. I think there's a lot of people that do marketing and managing where it's just like, oh, your couple $100 is like just a small part of the pool of like, they're managing 24 other people and like, they're just doing the bare minimum, versus like finding somebody that's a little bit more focused, has a smaller roster and actually understands what you're doing and knows who to market it to. Hey, he's looking for somebody. I'm looking for somebody too. So, you know what I mean? If you got like a more like fun rock and roll band, more traditional, if you know somebody that wants to do some weird metal or rap stuff, you can talk to me. I don't know. I could use the help too, but it's hard. It's hard out there.
I'd say Love Evolution, my band sound. If you're looking to just try to quantify it, Prince meets Queen meets Kid Cudi, I think would be a good example. The Kid Cudi albums that don't get a lot of praise either. Yeah. But no, I like the whole royal angle. Prince meets Queen. Yeah. So if that floats your boat as it does mine, hit me up. MichaelMiracles.com. I guess on our much beloved Instagram, I'm hashtag Michael Miracles Yoga. The whole Instagram, I give a lot of insight about how to make yoga a better part of your life, how to get deeper into it, and you get to see me making all these beautiful poses.
Yeah, it's very. I mean, you have a very nice looking Instagram. I was like, fuck, whenever you hit me up, I was like, this motherfucker's serious.
And I only have 2,000 followers.
That's still a lot of people, man. In the context of things, that's a lot of people to be interacting with. So, that's nothing to feel bad about. But let's wrap this up. And that is all, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. One more time, Michael Miracles. Look this dude up. Check out his bands. Check out his yoga classes. If you don't see me in the next month message me and just like yell at me.
I'm gonna start employing like door-to-door yoga cops that come in.
Yoga cops.
Namaste, motherfucker.
Yeah, no, I really feel like I feel I'm not gonna get into it. I feel like it's something I'm gonna do, but more than likely before that, I'll be back again in a couple days with another episode. Same time, same place, same channel. You know the drill. My name is Sykes. Start the Beat 2019. Woo! Woo! Thanks for listening. And if you're still there and we're wrapping things up, don't forget to share this episode with some people. Let them know what we're doing. It really, really helps a lot. Sharing is caring. And podcasts, internet. Use social media for good, motherfuckers. And that is it. We are done.